Hey Firefly, good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you're listening, wherever you are, welcome home. Welcome to Nowhere Else, the place where we stop running and start reclaiming the life we actually want, because there is nowhere else to go. I'm Donna Jean, your conductor and acting big sister for today's conversation because we're talking tits. I'm not kidding. My senior year of college, I underwent major surgery and I got a breast reduction. So today I'm going to be opening up about the decision-making process behind that, recovery time, how it impacted my body image and overall sense of worth, impacted relationships at a pivotal time in my life. And if you are a paid Substack subscriber, then lucky you'll get to hear the in-depth story time behind the inspiration for the soundtrack today. And trust me, this one is worth it. So whether you're here for the stories, lessons, or some company today, I'm glad you're listening, and let's get into it. So, I think we should probably start by saying why I wanted to get a breast reduction. The biggest reason why was because, for reference, if you didn't know me before the surgery, my chest was very large. They started growing in 5th grade and they didn't stop at all, like ever. And it was a lot for me. And I actually do remember in high school, somebody had asked me, "Oh, when are you getting your breast reduction?" And I was so offended because I was like, what makes you think I want it? I was like so offended. It's kind of silly looking back on it now because they were so big. Sometimes I actually look back at photos of myself and I'm like, holy shit. Or even like videos and like I can just see them moving underneath like a t-shirt and I'm like, whoa, I can't even believe that was real life. Anyways, they were really large. It was really difficult for me to wear any shirts. If I was wearing a t-shirt, I always felt like it made me look larger than I was because it would just push the shirt out. I always felt inappropriate at the beach with my family or with any family. I just always felt inappropriate even though I wasn't trying to be. It was just really difficult for me to find clothes that fit me, felt comfortable, felt cute in, and like I wanted to wear. I had a really difficult time in college because I think I just got to the point where I was working out more and more and I was getting so frustrated because some people I knew would work out, they'd end up losing a bunch of weight, and then they'd just completely lose their boobs. Or on the flip side, if they gained a bunch of weight, they would get boobs, and then, eventually if they lost it, they'd lose the boobs again. And no matter if I ever gained weight, it always went to my boobs. But if I ever lost weight, it was never my boob. Like, I just couldn't. It was really difficult in college. This sounds like a silly issue, I guess, but it was really difficult. It was hard for me physically as well. I had a pretty severe back injury my senior year of high school, and as I was getting older in college and working out more and more, I was just realizing I could strengthen my core every single day and to a certain degree, but my back needed more stability and it didn't have it. So ultimately, I really, really wanted one. I thought it was going to help with my confidence and things of that nature. So I decided to get one. And I was also feeling really insecure, I remember, maybe a few months leading up to before, which ultimately pushed me through to be like, I'm just going to do this and find a doctor and get this done and do it. Because I really wanted it to be done like that summer. That's why I wanted to get it done. I got it done December of I actually got it done on the 23rd, so right before Christmas. So I was very drugged up for the holidays. I don't really remember. I was very sleepy. Like, I don't really remember a lot of it, to be honest. But that was that. We actually had a couple surgery scheduling issues at first. Trying to find a date was a challenge in the beginning. I actually had one available that I could have taken in November, so around Thanksgiving, and I didn't do that because I was scheduled to go at the time on a trip out of the country for the first time, so I was not going to be able to do that and have major surgery, so I didn't end up taking that. But I was also going to be like, I'll just not go out of the country. So anyways, I got the surgery in December, and that was that. I also had a friend who had a breast reduction, and she was even considering getting a second one, and I had asked her a bunch of questions about the process, and she was really happy with it, obviously, and trusted her doctor and wanted to continue with that process. So I felt like she was a good resource to get information from and ask her experiences, or ask her about her experience, I guess. Like, did she stay over? What was her experience? So I had done a lot of research, and I was like, yep, I want to do this. I got to recover over my winter break, and then went back to school, I want to say like end of January, like maybe the third week of January, after Martin Luther King Day, I want to say. So that was like a month just about to recover. I was still swollen for about 6 months, but it was a good 4 weeks to recover. When I found my doctor, I had done a bunch of research, found a doctor that was local, that I trusted the reviews and liked what I had seen. So I scheduled an appointment with her. I had done my initial evaluation, and that's when they like take pictures and they measure and talk to you and explain to you how they do the surgery and what their process is, what to expect for recovery and things like that. And then they send those pictures and measurements to the insurance company to see if insurance is going to be able to cover it, because if you are a certain size, then obviously it can be deemed as like medically necessary and not cosmetic. Because sometimes what a lot of women will do as well, she was telling me, when they're older and they've already had all their kids and their skin is starting to lose the elasticity, sometimes they'll just get like a lift and do surgery to lift them up. But if it doesn't fit within a certain measurement, then that would be considered cosmetic and not medically necessary. So that's what that initial appointment was for, and we talked about like sizing and what to expect and what we were thinking based off of where I was at. And then after that, we just scheduled, and then the next time I saw my doctor was surgery day. I was there super early in the morning. I want to say my surgery time was 6:30 a.m. I want to say is the time I was on the table, and I was so nervous. I had an identity crisis the night before. Truthfully, I was freaking out because, and this is gonna maybe sound silly, but hopefully there's someone out there that understands what I'm describing right now. I really don't want this to sound shallow or narcissistic at all, but this was really what was going through my head. So I want to share with you what I was feeling, because if you are someone who is ever considering getting a breast reduction or thinking about it for whatever the reason may be, this is a thought that was in my head. I'm also someone with OCD, so I don't know if maybe that played into it and it's the anxiety. Maybe you wouldn't have these fears, but this is a real thing that was happening for me. So I was always the girl with a huge, like perfect, symmetrical boobs. But I didn't really think too much of it until I started having more friends that looked a little bit different than me. I am 5'9", and so I'm very tall. And a lot of my friends were like 5'2" or 5 foot, and I had pretty substantial boobs for a middle schooler. So that's when I started to notice that like there was a difference there, I guess. And then high school, I think, is when boys started to notice that there was a difference. And then that definitely got me into some trouble because it got me a lot of attention, positive and negative, from guys and girls, and that was really difficult for me to navigate. I never wanted, like I said before, I always felt inappropriate, or I always felt like I was overstepping too much, I guess. It made me feel like I was too much, and I always just wanted to be smaller. I always felt too big. I felt like an Amazon. I was 5'9", I had big feet, I had huge boobs, I had a butt, I had long legs, like I just felt massive, and all my peers, all the girls around me were 5'2" and 5 foot nothing, and did not have boobs. I actually found a photo the other day. It was my senior year volleyball picture, and I'm like, my God, they're actually insane. In my volleyball uniform, they look insane, and I'm like, I used to literally wear that to school and play a sport in that, and they look that large. Oh my God. Yeah. So anyways, I just was having an identity crisis. I don't say any of that to say that this was a good thing, that this was becoming my identity basically, but it definitely did become my identity. I was just a girl with really huge boobs, and they were perfectly symmetrical, and I was so nervous about going underneath the knife and something going wrong and them not being symmetrical, or them being uneven, or whatever the case may be. I was just so nervous, and I was having a lot of mixed emotions about it, but I was excited but just scared. And surgery day, I got there wicked early in the morning. My mom drove me in, and the doctor came in and checked in with me before surgery. I was like loopy at this point, but I remember, and I didn't have my glasses on because I wear glasses and contacts, but I was like, I'm not going to wear contacts because my eyes are going to be closed and you can't sleep with contacts in, obviously. So I was like, I'll just wear my glasses to the hospital, but then during surgery I didn't have them, so I couldn't really see. And this was pre me fixing finally my teeth, so I I remember being so loopy and looking up to them and being like, I just want to say to all of you guys, thank you for being here so early. I know it's a holiday week. I really appreciate like, as if I'm paying their salary. I just appreciated that they were there. I don't know. I think I also thought maybe that if I was so gracious to them and give so much gratitude before my surgery, they would like try extra hard to not like fuck it up, you know? Be like, oh, she's so nice, we can't make her like botched. I don't know. I was just so nervous. But anyways, so that was that. And then I remember finally waking up and being like, glasses, please, let me see. And I guess when I woke up, I immediately tried to look at them. So apparently I immediately woke up and tried to pull my shirt open, but I went to like grab at the gauze, which I was not supposed to do, because you're not even supposed to raise your arms up past a certain point for a while. And then I remember driving home, I laid back all the way reclined in the chair. And then we got back to the house. It was obviously Christmas time, so my grandmother was coming up and my boyfriend at the time was going to be coming up, and I was just not really in the mood to go anywhere or do anything. I was in a lot of pain. I was having so many mixed emotions. If you're a paid Substack subscriber, then you will get to hear the full in-depth reasoning behind all of this, because I'm going to explain what happened after that initial appointment. But I was having all of these mixed emotions and kind of having an identity crisis, and I really had no one to talk to about it, because I actually did talk to my friend that had this surgery prior to, and she actually had her second one the week before I did. So we were both recovering around the same time, which was nice. But I talked to her about it, and she didn't really understand what I was saying. And I have a family member who had a breast reduction years and years ago, a very long time ago. And my mom had a lot of anxiety around me having a reduction. I already knew she was feeling a certain type of anxious way about it, whether she was going to let that on more or not. And I was like, I don't want to let anyone know I'm feeling any type of way about this, because I didn't need to add to that. But I just didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to about it. And I didn't have the support of my significant other at the time either. It was just kind of a weird, touchy subject, and it wasn't something where I felt comfortable to be vulnerable about the situation with them, unfortunately, which is unfortunate, but that was the circumstance. So yeah, that was that. I was pretty uncomfortable sleeping for the first couple nights, but I got this really nice wedge pillow. I'll share a couple things that helped me. I think maybe that would be helpful to do a little video about that, so I'll have to share that. But I got this wedge pillow that really helped, and I actually used again for my knee as well when I broke my leg last summer. But that wedge pillow really helped me just stay elevated, because I had to stay sleeping on my back, and I notoriously was someone who would sleep on either my stomach or my side. Now I never sleep on my stomach. I used to sleep on my stomach all the time, but now I don't, because it also is bad for your boobs. I got these really comfortable surgery recovery bras that were really helpful in like keeping them up. They were comfortable to sleep in because I could sleep in them. That helped. So I got surgery in December, and I started lifting probably like after spring break, to be honest, because I tore my meniscus spring break. So probably after that. So maybe April. So it takes a while. You also probably could do it sooner. I'm someone who, I love shoulders and chest. That's my favorite day. So when I do it, I have a difficult time slowing down the reps and the weight, and I tend to go for it. I found it difficult to incorporate those exercises back into my routine post-surgery for a little while. I had an easier time doing cardio and more lower body exercises and doing more core. I incorporated a lot of core and then got more into training upper body again, probably end of March, early April. So it took a few months, but overall, we were doing much better. I was so excited to be able to I used to hate going dress shopping. That was like my least favorite thing to do ever. And I was so excited to actually be able to go to the store and try them on and feel comfortable and confident and the dress that I was wearing for graduation and all the other events that we had going on. So that was something I was really stoked to do. Even going out a couple of times in the spring semester, I felt better because I didn't have to worry about my boobs. I remember trying on different shirts again for the first time after not having them and being like, whoa, like that's insane. I've never seen myself look like this in the shirt before, which was kind of cool and kind of crazy to see the before and after of all of that. If you haven't listened to the food journey episode yet, then go listen to that, because I'll talk more in depth about how my weight fluctuated and how food was impacted post-grad life. So go listen to that episode if you haven't already. You'll get more of an idea. But essentially after graduation, to keep it really quick, I gained a bunch of weight. I gained about 30 pounds, and then shortly after that, I ended up losing 50 pounds. So, and there's a lot that happens in between. But as a result, I was dealing with a lot of attention on both sides of the spectrum. So I had dealt with it on both sides. I had dealt with it with having really large boobs, like the positives and negatives of that. And then I had dealt with the implications of being a little bit larger as well. And then I dealt with being super skinny with like no boobs, or smaller boobs, but super skinny and fit. Overall, it really impacted my body image. It impacted my self-esteem, I would say in positive and negative ways, because I don't know. And it's not like I did that because of anyone else. I didn't choose to do the surgery because I was seeking validation from anyone else. I wanted to do that surgery for myself for a very long time, and then was happy that I made the decision to do so. But initially, it really did, after I went through the whole weight loss journey, it really impacted my body image overall. It impacted the issue that I'll talk about on the extended episode is something that really impacted my confidence and overall my sexual power. Like, I didn't have a lot of confidence. And then when I started working in corporate America, I had lost 50 pounds. And now I felt like less of a woman because I didn't have my same curves anymore. I remember once at a meeting, I was walking by and I overheard someone say, it's all very dramatic, but I had heard, whatever, she's just a kid. You're a whole woman. Why do you care? And I felt really sad about that because I was like, fuck, I do look like a kid. I do feel like a kid. I don't feel like an adult. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel sexy. I don't feel, and a big reason for that would be because I think the environment around me when I went through the surgery, I went through the process, I just didn't really feel super sexy anymore, I guess. My whole sense of worth was all messed up now because, like I said before, whether it was positive or negative, they always got me a lot of attention. And now this issue and this person was directly influencing how I felt about something that was completely for me. It was completely for me. I say I'm pretty stubborn, and I always say I don't like to be told to do something when I'm already doing it or going to do it. Then I won't want to do it. That's basically how this situation went down. It made me feel like it was taking the power out of my decision. It was a major surgery, a scary decision, something I was very nervous about doing, and irreversible. It was a major decision. I didn't feel supported. Then I didn't feel sexy, and I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel like I was enough anymore at that point. And that was really, really, really hard for me. Now, my body image is much better. I would say that I'm actively working on reclaiming my sense of self-worth and my confidence. Some of the areas are still a work in progress. I was insecure about the scars for a really long time. A really, really long time. I remember actually saying that a few times. Like, oh gosh, my scars, I don't want it. They're really bad. They're like non-existent now. I don't even know why that's something I was so insecure about. So I don't know. Lately, I've just been trying to find ways to feel sexy in my skin now, especially alone. Being alone and doing that alone has been major for my mental health because coming out of the relationship that I was in, there was a lot of healing that needed to be done that didn't. Then there was more like trauma sprinkled in. So right now, when it comes to feeling sexy and like a woman in my authentic power of, being a woman, I guess. I'm trying to heal. I'm really trying to heal. Last year was a difficult year for me. Physically, obviously, we know this with my leg. I don't need to continue to beat a dead horse, but it was, kind of a big deal. So out of commish for a while, and I'm just feeling kind of disinterested in a lot of interactions that I'm witnessing recently, I guess. And right now I'm just really trying to focus on myself and my health and making myself feel better and get in a position so that I can take advantage of the opportunities that are coming down my path and my dreams. Actually take control of them. I'm training for something very exciting and very special that I'm very anxious to talk about and have it all come to fruition. But reclaiming that sense of sexiness and self has been an ongoing challenge and something I'm still working on. When I was younger, I remember I would go to the store and I would always go and flip through the posters and try to find the Sports Illustrated ones. I remember being in middle school having a thought, just being like, wow, like I cannot wait to be Sports Illustrated supermodel. I saw Kate Upton's and I was like, wow. Like, I'm gonna be a Sports Illustrated supermodel. That was my dream. And when I was younger, I was always told that I was too large and too athletic looking, but I still needed to have a fitter build. I was just too big.